Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Wendy. Good evening, Brian. 4 weeks away felt like a lifetime for me personally. The Game Changers are back, hosting for tonight's show the one and only Brian Drake. I honestly don't know what episode we're in, or do I? Do we know?
I don't know.
I think
It's in the 30s.
Of, of course I do. Of course I do. We're on episode 39, Wendy. Yes, yes, you heard it right. Almost making our 40th anniversary. We are going on to into our 40th anniversary, you guys. That's amazing. I want to welcome once more Brian Drake as our first guest after vacation. And I'm so eager to learn about his wonderful journey, especially after winning the FSWA. I want to extend our gratitude to all of you for tuning in every Wednesday and being part of the conversation. Wendy and I express deep appreciation for the backing of Evan, Iggy, JC, and the whole TSA team who have provided us with this platform to interact with remarkable individuals in our community. Join us as we delve into the lives and narratives of our guests, getting to know their innermost secrets, experiences into fantasy football, and much, much more. The Game Changers is not your ordinary show. It has transformed us into a beloved community. And we are thrilled to share this journey with all of you here tonight. Wendy, I know you have some news to share with us before I introduce our guest. What are you hiding? Spill the
Oh,
beans.
man, I'm telling you, it's been an action-packed last week for me. But welcome back, Carla. I've missed you so much.
You too.
I hope your summer vacation that isn't really a summer vacation. You're not on vacation. You say it's a summer vacation, but you're not on vacation, but whatever. So,
Who is?
anyways, I have missed you. So, this past weekend, I attended a live draft in Chicago for the Scott Fish Bowl. We were in lovely Itasca, Illinois, which is just beautiful this time of year. And I had such an amazing time. I got to spend the day with Pete Sandoval, who is my colleague here at TSA, along with his beautiful wife, Blanca. She was so nice, you guys. She listened to my garbage all the way there, all the way home, never complained about a thing. Pete, your wife is amazing. You definitely married up, Pete. So, what I wanted to say is Steven Johnson killed it with the organizing at the event, you guys. We raised over $5,000 for Fantasy Cares just at our live draft. So that
Amazing.
all is so yeah, I know it was so great, and so I want to thank you to Scott Fish and his team over there at Fantasy Cares. I mean, how cool is it that we can raise so much money from this crazy fun hobby of ours? So it's something that I really loved being there. I know we're going to talk about that later. So, Carla, if you could please introduce our guest who has turned this crazy hobby into a career.
Of course. Well, meet everybody, Brian Drake, the fantasy football guru, as everyone knows him, right? In the realm of fantasy football, Brian Drake stands out as a key figure. He's known for co creating the acclaimed The Fantasy Football Hustle podcast, a nominee for the prestigious FSWA Podcast of the Year award in 2022. Brian also brought his expertise to the PFF post game show on SiriusXM for 2 years and currently co hosts the engaging 2 Point Stance podcast alongside with Joe Dolan. His valuable insights and deep knowledge make him a must listen for fantasy football aficionados. Brian is proud graduate of Oswego, I hope I didn't say it wrong, State University,
Yep, you
where
got
he
it.
studied broadcasting. He calls Syracuse, New York, home, where he resides with his wife and 2 children. Despite being prepared for the annual disappointments from his favorite team, the Syracuse Orange, Brian remains a devoted fan for the Philadelphia Eagles and has a passion for professional wrestling. If you happen to bump into him, offering a cold IPA is sure to bring a smile to his face. Recently honored with FSWA Football Article of the Year award, Brian showcased his son's admiration for fantasy football in his winning piece. As he continues to make waves in the fantasy football community, we eagerly anticipate hearing more about his successes. How are you today, Brian?
I mean, after that, there's nothing else to say. I could just go to bed right
All right,
now.
we're done. We're done. Thanks,
Yeah,
Brian.
thanks everybody. Good night. See you later. I'm doing good. Just picked my daughter up from cheerleading practice and just kind of looking at the rundown that was sent over for tomorrow morning's fantasy football morning show on Sirius XM and trying to, just act like I know what I'm talking about. It's 7:00 in the morning when people are, in their cars, sipping their coffee, like, hey, what's going on in fantasy today? Like, yeah, they think people are doing
you have
hours
that
and hours
voice,
of
though. I'm telling you, Brian, you have that voice. I mean, I want to listen to you. Keep talking. I'm just going to sit here. Keep talking.
Well, thanks. People told me that all the time. Like, I love your voice. It's great for radio. You can hear your own voice in your head. And I've always, I'm like, it's not great. And then when I hear it played back, I go, oh, I really don't like my voice. But hey, whatever. It's working for me so far. And we'll keep it up. So yeah, you guys had a nice little thing going. 40 episodes. You guys are
close to 40.
Yes. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, like most podcasts don't even get past like 6 episodes. People think,
actually, I have to correct you. I did some research, Brian, and it's actually 4 episodes.
Oh, 4. Yeah. I knew it's a low number. And now you guys are doing great. And look, you got people here in the live chat. I was afraid I want to join the live chat so I can chat with them, but I feel like if I click on the wrong thing, I'm going to like screw up the pod and like get kicked out.
Yeah,
so I
don't do that. Don't do that. Just stay where you're at.
Yeah.
They're all here for you, Brian. Definitely. They're all here for you just to hear you and now hear your story.
Oh, that's cool. Well, yeah, we'll have some fun tonight. Hey, where's Doug? That's what I want to know, Carla.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's listening to you. I'm sure he's listening to you. He's going to pop into the chat. Definitely.
He was texting me earlier. I was out to dinner and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like trying to give him answers. I'm like, I wish I had something for you here. As I'm scarfing down a bagel.
What he's asking.
Yeah. Well, Doug, if everybody knows Doug Orth here on the show, Doug is a phenomenal writer. And, a guy I look up to. He does really, really fine work in the fantasy community. And, he had a question about something we had over at fantasypoints.com. And I was just trying to point him in the right direction and get him to the author of the article. So I think I did that and we set him on his way.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
You have to take care of Doug Orth. He's the guy. You got to take care of him, Brian, right?
He's cool. I met Doug, back in 2018, 2019 out in Canton at the Expo.
You kidding?
Yeah, and I'm friends with him ever since, man. That's the cool thing about the Expo is you get out there and you just meet people and you become buddies. And like Drew Davenport's become a great friend of mine. I know you guys had him on the show a couple of months back.
Drew.
The Expo is a cool place to go and to make some friends. And I'm looking forward to meeting a few more.
It's so close. It's just around the corner. Yeah, it's so close.
Can you believe it? I know. I got to hit the gym. I can't show up looking like an 8th grader. I got to try to.
I know. I started my diet today. We'll see how many pounds I can lose in the next 2 weeks. I'm just not going to eat.
We're going to do Zumba there too, Brian. So you better get ready. You and Wendi, you better get ready for that. Just saying.
I really want to try it, but I think it would not go very well.
Oh, no, it will go well.
Give yourself a plug. When are you doing Zumba out there in Canton?
Yes.
I'm doing Friday and Saturday. So
in the
at
morning
4
or
o'clock.
at night?
No, in the afternoon, before the parties. Yeah. Okay. And before the flag football on Saturday. So people should be there. And 30% of the revenue is going to go for charities. So it's going to be really good. It's going to be really good.
Sweat out the alcohol.
Yes.
And
you can drink and dance.
Look, Carla, I'm going to make a huge donation. I'm going to give you a great donation, but expect no Zumba out of Wendi. It's just not going to happen.
Zumba next to me, like next to me, like stuck to my hip, Wendi.
That would be very bad.
Before you drink, right? On Anne.
Is it weird for people to stand around and drink and watch the Zumba? Because I'm sure people will do that.
So.
No, as long as you donate, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's gonna be fun, like for people to watch. Maybe they can
Oh
do it.
my
They can
goodness!
do it
Look who's
after.
in the chat. We have Doug Orth in the chat, you
There he
guys.
is.
He's here. Yeah, yes, you were being talked about, Doug, because you are a friend of the show. You know
Yeah.
this.
And I realized I was trying to find Doug's number in my phone to text him the other day. And I have his last name instead of an O, it's a 0 for some reason.
Oh,
So like I kept typing in and it wouldn't come up. And I'm like, I know I have his number. And then I realized it's Doug, then a 0 ORTH. I'm like, all right. Well, I haven't even
Because
fixed it. I
no
looked at
way
it and
is
it's
Doug a
not.
0. Doug is not a 0. No way, shape, or form, Brian. Get with
my
it.
ears are burning. It's okay, babe. Your ears are gonna be always
Yeah,
burning.
it's all right. It's all right. All right, so let's get this party started, you guys. I am so excited.
Me
So
too.
Brian, I would say probably the very first question is, how did you get started in this fantasy football world?
Well, just playing, I started a league with my buddies back in, geez, what was that? 2000, it's like 2003, 2004, something like that. And then I started what became in my current home league, the Alcoholic Haze, and that's in year like 18 or 19 now.
Nice.
So yeah, we're super proud of that. And then getting into content, I started that in probably 2006 or so. I was actually just sitting on Twitter, and I have a background in journalism and radio and all that fun stuff. But I was sitting there on my couch drinking a beer, but there's way too much drinking going on. My wife tells me that too. She's like, "You talk about drinking way too much. People are gonna think you're some raging alcoholic." But there was an opening or a tweet placed, Ryan Hallam, Fighting Chance, and he said, "Hey, we had a last minute guy drop out. It was Steve Gardner from USA Today. He goes, we need someone to hop into this draft and draft, in the next 5 minutes." I responded, "Hey, I'll do it." He goes, "Boom, you're in." Gave me the link. I drafted. At the end of it, he goes, "Oh, okay, that was great. Like, what site do you write for?" "I don't write for any site. What are you talking about? I'm just some, guy on Twitter." And he's like, "Oh my God, like I thought you were some, real writer for the in the industry." So from that point on, we sparked a friendship. He goes, "Hey, why don't you write about the draft? Write me a little review." And he liked what I did, and he gave me a chance at Fighting Chance Fantasy. And from then on, I've always been indebted to Fighting Chance. They've given a million people a shot
Yep.
to get into
Yep.
the industry, and they don't pay you anything. And they say that right up front. They go, "We don't pay you because we don't make any money either." This site's 200 years old. And if it even, if it boots up tomorrow, God bless America. But yeah, Ryan Hallam and Steve Rapp and the guys at Fighting Chance, I owe them everything. That's how I got into the industry, just by answering a tweet and tricking someone online. So I catfished
Isn't it
someone to get into the
amazing?
fantasy industry.
That's
It's usually
crazy.
for dating, and look at you. You're catfishing somebody to get in the fantasy industry.
Yes. Shout out to the Godfather, Ryan Hallam.
Well, you know what? Yeah, Ryan is obviously a friend of our show. He's been on as a
Yep.
guest as well. He is so great with promoting, new writers, women, just general. He's just a great guy. He was one of the people I could not wait to meet at the expo last year, and we're going to talk about the expo, but we really wanted to see how you got involved in this, so that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I liked Ryan and Fighting Chance and Steve, the guys there, because they were very inclusive. He was all about giving a voice to, young guys, old guys, women, anybody who wanted to write. And he didn't care what you wanted to write about. He's like, you want to write about the WNBA? Go write about the WNBA. You want to do fantasy football? Great. Baseball, whatever, movies, just write something. And if anybody out there is listening, they want to break into the industry, they want to write at Fighting Chance, slide into the DMs at FC Fantasy. Yeah, it's FC Fantasy Sports on Twitter, or go to fightingchancefantasy.com. Like, hey, we'll put you on tomorrow. You can write an article. Trust me. But yeah, that's what I really loved about it, is it gave everybody a chance, and it launched a lot of careers from there.
Oh, heck yeah.
A lot of folks that you hear. My buddy Dwayne McFarland, who is as big as anybody in the industry, was writing for Fighting Chance. Fantasy Taz, who actually passed away a year or so ago, he was writing there. Kevin Tompkins, Casey Kasem, Corbin Young, who writes for I think RotoViz. He's won multiple FSWA baseball awards. So many great people have come through Fighting Chance. And now we're even sponsoring Drew Davenport's podcast. The Auction Brief is brought to you by Fighting Chance Fantasy. So nobody wanted to put Drew's too modest to say this. I don't know if he's listening or not, but people, I don't know what the holdup is about giving Drew a podcast, but we broke down all those barriers. We go, we'll put Drew on the air right now and we'll promote his podcast. So I'm so happy to have my friend Drew doing the podcast that he wanted to do. And, frankly, is the best auction podcast out there. If you're not listening to it, it's called The Auction Brief. So go check that out. And again, all brought to you by Fighting Chance Fantasy.
I adore Drew Davenport.
I love him. Yeah.
Just the nicest guy. I mean, he was on the show too. And, he just everything that you're saying, but you know what? You're talking about everyone else and we're here to talk about you. So Carla, talk to him and find out some stuff about him. Okay.
But that thing is, you can't get to where you are in this industry without help from all these other people. I'm just a guy in his basement that's doing a radio show or a podcast. But if it wasn't for, I having friends help me with graphics or the opening to the show or, whatever, show me how to edit, then, I never would have gotten to Sirius XM, what I'm doing right now. It's all because other people around me help build me up. Going out to the Fantasy Football Expo and getting in the Kings Classic draft. There's no reason Brian Drake should have been in the Kings Classic. None. Nobody knew who I was. They still don't know who I am in that thing.
That's
and
amazing.
we worked our way up. Now we're in the highest division of it. So, I hope anybody who out there listening, there are no gatekeepers anymore in fantasy or in media. Yeah. You can all get on the air tomorrow through YouTube, through TikTok, through Instagram. You just have to put in the work. Just do it. Start doing content. And, you can just fight your way to the top. And that's really what it is. You guys know how it is. It's not like day one, 1 million people are going to download your show, because they're not. You're going to get 2 people that watch it. You and, the guy that was looking for Zumba videos at 2 a.m.
I agree 100%. And giving credit to people, Brian, is really amazing. And I applaud you for that. So first of all, congratulations on your FSWA Football Article of the Year award. So I know what was the topic of your article, and I would love if you can share it with the audience. What was the topic of your award-winning article, and how did you feel when you received the FSWA recognition?
Yeah, it was really incredible to win that and to get nominated. I've been nominated a few times for different awards. So that's always, again, incredible, because there's so many really, really talented people in this industry. And I wrote this article. And when I wrote it, I knew it was good. And I knew I would have a chance to win an award. But you don't write to try to win awards. But in this case, I knew it could do well. The article is about my son, Derek, finding fantasy football and finding the NFL basically in general. I sit down here, and at the time I was doing a Sunday night show on Sirius XM. So I would have to watch all the games. And then at 7:00, I would go live on the air. And he would, one day, it was like, I don't know, week 7, week 8, he just came down and he just started watching the games, which was incredible. I'm like, oh, buddy, you're getting kind of into this. Every week he started developing a routine, hanging out with me. He would make certain food, and he started to watch the Eagles games with me, because I'm a long-suffering Eagles fan. Yeah. And then the Eagles made the Super Bowl, and it was a huge party here at the house, and they had a great season, because that year, two years ago, the Eagles won all the time. They were one of the best teams in football. And then they lose the Super Bowl, and it just starts the waterworks. He's crying, my daughter's crying, my wife's crying. But that is a teaching moment as a parent, and I wrote about it in the article, where I talked to him and I said, hey, listen, tomorrow when you go to school, wear your Eagles jersey. And he's like, why? They lost. They stink. Probably said some other words. Why would I want to do that? And I'm like, because you're a fan, and this is what fans do. I live in upstate New York. It's a ton of Buffalo Bills fans. You wear your jersey. You're diehard. You're dedicated, win or loss. And that's what's going to build your fandom. So when people see you, they go, oh, hey, there's Derek. He's been an Eagles fan since he was, knee high, because they know, win or lose, he's wearing his little Jalen Hurts jersey to school. So he did. And then the next year he joined a fantasy football league, and it was fun. It followed his draft. It showed him having a great start to the season, then ultimately, losing his first game and kind of how it played out. But it was really more of a story of learning to lose and also spending some time with his old man through sports. And that's what connected with so many people, is how sports can bring together, a mother and son, a father and daughter, whatever it is, father, son. That really is what flooded my DMs, is people would say to me like, hey man, I used to watch games all the time with my dad and he passed. And it meant a lot to me to read this, and it brought back good memories. I'm hoping to do that with my kid. So that's cool. If people can connect on some level and, they see in their kids what I just saw and had a great experience with my son. He's playing fantasy baseball now. I don't know anything about baseball. He's in like 2 leagues picking guys.
That's a lot of work. The fantasy baseball is a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't know who any of these guys are. I know Aaron Judge, Juan Soto. That's it. I know the Yankees.
The big guys.
We're going to a Yankees game on Saturday. I better brush up and figure out who some of these guys
That's
I'm paying
amazing,
arm and a leg for to see.
He starts with something and now he's picking something else and he wants you to pick it with him. That's amazing.
Yeah, we were playing catch before the show. We were outside, then I had to go pick my daughter up. And then you asked about when I won the award. So
yes,
last year was a tough year for me personally. I lost my job. I had a really good job as a liquor salesman. And there's just a lot of, BS that happened at work and really poor management. And I ended up losing my job. And from that, well, hey, it happens. It's part of life. There's guys and gals listening to this who lose jobs, and they know it's not like tomorrow you have a new job, all of the interviewing and the self-doubt and I've done this for 15 years. What else am I going to do? So it was a long, hard summer, and I was in my car and I knew when the award show was on. So I was driving from somewhere and I parked at the New York State Fair, which is here in Syracuse. I was just like in the parking lot. I pulled off the highway, and because my award was coming up next, and they don't tell you if you're going to win. It really is like you're just sitting in the audience like, oh man, I hope I win. And you have to give them your phone number because they're going to put you on the air. So they go to break and it's, hey, okay, we're coming up next. It's article of the year. My phone lights up. And it's a 212 area code. I know it's New York City, at where Sirius is located. And I think I started crying because I knew what it was. And I pick up the phone, and as the producer, it might have been Drew Phelps or somebody, and he's like, "Hey, Brian, you're from Sirius XM. We're gonna, I hope you're listening to the show. You won the award. We're gonna put you on the air in 30 seconds." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's go." So they bring me on the air, and I think Jeff Erickson talks about the show, or talks about the article, and it was great. Kind of a surreal moment. The award actually just showed up last week. So it's sitting down here in the basement, and I've seen people on Twitter post their pictures of theirs for years. JJ Zacharysen's got like 3 closets full of them because all the guy does is win these damn awards. I'm like, I just need one. But I always wanted to win the podcast award.
You need that one.
I want the podcast award. And to get nominated last year for the Fantasy Football Hustle, which really was like the last year of the show, when we were up against, again, JJ and his pod, the Fantasy Footballers. I think people have heard of them. Just like every big site, like CBS's podcast, everybody who's a big site, and then the Fantasy Football Hustle, like literally 2 dudes in their basement, not backed by any big site or anything. So that meant a lot to me. I knew we weren't going to win that, but that was cool to be nominated.
Maybe ours is going to be nominated soon too.
Hey, put it out there. You have to.
It can happen.
If you don't apply, you can't win. So
Doing
content that you're proud of. And that's the other thing. People always ask, they're like, well, I want to, do a fantasy show or whatever it is. It's like, number one, do shows that you would want to listen to, that you find interesting, and don't make shows for like other content creators, because in this kind of like fantasy football world, a bunch of other people that do shows and that write articles. And I think people get lost in, hey, maybe my friend who writes for this site or does this podcast will listen or will watch it. Like, who cares about them? Like, you should be trying to do content that you like and that someone who's in a fantasy league will find interesting, and you're going to help them win their league, or in the case of what you guys are doing here, find more creators that are interesting and build their platform. So yeah, don't do content for other content creators. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Do content that you would want to listen to if you were sitting in your car driving an hour to work. Like, make that show.
I hope you guys realize you're all getting free advice from Brian Drake, you guys.
That's cool. Hey, it's I love talking about this stuff, content creation and the theory behind it and all this stuff. Yeah, I could talk about this all day. It's better than somebody asking me like, give me your top 3 sleeper running backs for 20.
Right. That's not, yep.
You know, you can find that stuff anywhere.
Well, you know, and that's kind of, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, would you consider yourself, when you first all started this, you were just a fan?
Yeah.
You know, that's just crazy. And look
Sure.
now, I mean, you know, it can happen, you guys. It can happen. Brian Drake is living proof. I love it.
And when I got the job doing mornings on Sirius XM, John Hansen and I were doing, he called me and we were having a conversation, and, you know, I was telling him about, listen, I've got a real 9-to-5 job that I just landed, and I've got to tell them, oh, by the way, a couple days a week, I have to do a morning show from this time to this time. And he's like, he told me a great story. He goes, when I first started doing Sirius XM, and this was 20 something years ago when John started that, he said, I had to do Friday nights. And he said he had 2 small children, or maybe more than that, 3. And his wife hated it because it was the middle of Friday night, like the one night they could do something, and he was on the air, but he knew the opportunity was so incredible that he couldn't pass it up. And he said that to me. He goes, you can't not do this. You have to take the opportunity, because who knows where it goes from here. You know, people hear you on the morning show, and there's a lot of people that listen to that morning show. You know, like we had Adam Schefter on the podcast that I do with John, and so he's listening, and there's other athletes and actors, and there all sorts of people out there, you know, at points check in on that station. And it's just like podcasts. You never know who out there is listening, who's on YouTube right now, flipping by and like, oh, hey, let's check this show out. So, you know, always put your best show out there, because God knows who's listening. Could be Shefty. He could be watching right now.
Oh, he might be. If he knows you're on here, he might be watching.
I know Bob Harris is on the air right now as we record this, but maybe.
Oh, excuse me. That's my bestie. Okay, he's my bestie. He would be here if he could be. We know that he's unavailable right now, but.
So, Brian, I don't know if you saw Jameson. So, Jameson is a friend of the show. It's his anniversary.
Well. Yes.
Yeah, it's his anniversary. So, we're going to have a shout out for him. Happy anniversary. He just said he will watch the show later. So, we're going to just have a shout out for him, because he's here every single time, like every single
week.
Time.
He's a good dude, man. He's on his way up in the industry as well. So I'm happy to see the success that he's having. And yeah, him and I, we BS.
I met him last year, so I can't wait to see him this year as well. I can't wait to see a lot of people this year. That's amazing. So talking about, you know, your podcasting journey, Brian, what inspired you to start the Fantasy Football Hustle, and how has the journey been so far with that?
Well, so the Hustle was a great experience. I'm so proud of it. And number one, it led me to meet my friend Dwayne McFarland, who at the time I met, he had like 100 followers on Twitter. I mean, he was just a new guy, just putting some stats out there. And I'm like, I got to find somebody to come on this show. So I'm just on Twitter. And again, nobody knows who I am. So I have to kind of set my bar a little lower. I got to try to find people who are also, knocking on the door. So I see Dwayne, and I just started chatting him up in the DMs. Hey, man, I'm starting this new podcast. I'd love for you to come on, be my first guest or whatever it was. And he's like, okay, cool. So he comes on, he does the first show. And then afterwards, I do kind of a wrap up with Ryan Hallam at Fighting Chance. I go, hey, man, did you hear me and that guy, Dwayne? You know, okay, cool. Who are we going to get next week? And Ryan's like, no. He goes, that's the show. He goes, get that guy back. He's smart. Like, take what you do, being kind of the host and funny guy, whatever you're trying to do, and he goes, get him, because he knows what he's talking about. So Dwayne and I ended up forming a friendship for 5 years that we did the show. 5 or 6 years, geez Louise, until basically just contractually he couldn't do it anymore. He got a job with Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, and that was tough. We had to have the conversation of like, yeah, we can't really do it anymore, because we did it like every Tuesday for, geez, I don't know, what, 6 years or so. But it did exactly what we wanted it to do. It springboarded our careers to now he's full-time in fantasy football, doing it for Matthew Berry, which is incredible. And just imagine that 6 years ago, you're sitting in your basement sending out tweets at 200 people, and you're thinking like, well, Matthew Berry is going to hire me full-time and pay me a killer salary to just do fantasy football and be on the radio and write articles and have a magazine. So yeah, it launched exactly what we wanted to have happen. It sucks that it had to end, and who knows, maybe down the line we can revive it or something like that and have a fun show. It'd be fun to do at the expo. It's just like a live show on stage or something. You can bring back all the old podcasts that aren't around anymore. They can just do reunion shows. But yeah, you mentioned what got you into podcasting. It was, like I mentioned before, there's no gatekeepers anymore. Anybody can go out and get a microphone and get on YouTube and start streaming a show for little to no money at all. So
Yeah.
I knew I had this background. I had a degree. I'm like, I'm getting old. I got to take a shot at this if I want to have some fun and see where it goes. Because you'll kick yourself. One day you're going to be too old and you'll be sitting around in a rocking chair and you'll be like, damn it, why didn't I take a shot at doing something I really would have enjoyed doing? So that's what we did, and it got us to where we are today. I'm on Sirius XM, and he's doing it full time. So the hustle worked out. We did what we always said it in the show. We never got out hustled, and it landed us in paying gigs. So yeah, shout out to the hustle.
All right.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Well, and you have to have
Doug,
the
Doug
support
saying
of your
35
family.
is not too old. I'm Doug, I'll be 44 years old in a few weeks.
Oh, you don't look a day over. I thought you were 35. Look at that.
I know, it's
yeah.
you my daughter. She came down here. My daughter turns 10.
I was going to ask how old your kids are. How old are your kids? 10 and what?
Derek is just turned 12. Allie will turn 10. She's like a little peanut. She's got this baby face. Oh my God.
Well, and when you do things like this, you have to have the support of your family, of course, but how did your wife feel when you came home one day and said, I think I want to do this fantasy sports thing all the time. I'm just going to venture out and try and pay the bills with it. How did she feel about that?
Well, I mean, I still have a real 9-to-5 job that, I'm a upstate New York market manager for a large brewery here in New York State. So that's what I do 9 to 5. But I also do, the morning show. Then I do a podcast with John Hansen. Then I write articles.
How do you do all that?
It's tough. There's articles that I'm way behind on right now that I should be writing. And it's time management, because I think there's so many folks out there, and you guys have probably been in this situation too. You want to write good articles and you want to be in the fantasy industry or do podcast. And then you realize, wait, I got kids, I got a job, I got a husband, a boyfriend, I got to go to see the Zumba Classic. You don't have time to sit here 20 hours a day writing fantasy football articles. And then when you do, this happened to me, where I looked and I go, all right, I could go write an article about, I don't know, your sleeper wide receivers. And then I can go look at any 500 guys on Twitter and go, they just did the same article and they probably did it better than I could do it. Let's be honest. Like, what am I wasting my time for? So that's why, like, if you see some of the articles I write, like the one I won FSWA for, it has nothing to do with fantasy football other than that's what my son was playing. I mean, I won the football article of the year for an article that really had nothing to do with football. But that's what I realize is, like, that's got to be my route, is just be different. If you're going to, you can there's this guy Eric Bischoff who used to run WCW, it's old wrestling
Yep.
thing back in the day.
Yep.
And I listen to his podcast all the time, and he talks about if you're going to do anything, I mean, you're going to be are you better than, are you less than, or are you different than? And really, there's only a few, like two of those options are going to get you anywhere. You know, are you better than what the products that are in the field? Are you different than the products in the field? And if you're not going to survive. So again, more thoughts to think about when you're, it doesn't have to be football content, just in your job, in your hobby, your side hustle, whatever you're doing. Just think about that. Like, how am I different than everybody else who's trying to do this right now?
Yeah, you need to like show that you're different in some way so you can catch that. So we know that you have a passion for professional wrestling. How did that interest start? And do you see any parallels between wrestling and fantasy football?
Oh, the cross section of audience in fantasy football and wrestling. I mean, there's a billion folks who are fans of both, right? And if you look behind me over my shoulder right here, I've got the old Winged Eagle WWE Championship belt. So when I was a kid, my grandmother, who just passed 2-3 weeks ago, and
I'm sorry,
my mom, she was 100. She lived a great life. I got a good story about that too.
Awesome.
They were all wrestling fans. These old Polish women who loved Ivan Putski.
Hell yeah.
All of these, because the wrestlers back in the day were all very ethnic. There was the German guy, there was the Russian guy, the Italian guy, the Puerto Rican guy, whatever it was. Everyone was an ethnicity. That was your character, was where you're from. I
love Von Erichs a lot. The Von Erichs.
Yeah, the Von Erichs down in Texas had a great thing going. So, I just became a wrestling fan. I think through my grandmothers and my mom, who still watches wrestling every week.
I love that.
Yeah, my grandmother. Quick side story. So my grandma passed away a couple of weeks ago. And when she was at my house one time, and she was in her 90s, she died at 100. So she had a great life. So she was at my house, and she had like her church clothes on, and it was like hot outside and by the pool, and she wanted to change. So I got her a shirt to wear, and I have a purple, like Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt. And that's what I gave her. So I have this great picture of her holding a Keystone Light and then wearing the shirt like next to the pool. So at her at her calling hours, that's what I wore, was the Macho Man shirt.
Oh, that's freaking awesome.
And I gave a little eulogy, and I talked about, I used to go to her house after my grandfather passed in 2020. I would come home from college, and I would go to her house on Monday nights to watch wrestling. I would bring pizza, and me and her would just watch wrestling on Monday nights together. So that was a good way to kind of just keep her spirits up. Even up until she died, she was still watching wrestling. You know,
it was does she like any of the guys? Did she like any of the guys now? Like, any of the guys that are wrestling now?
I think she like, Roman Reigns. She talked about him. She didn't like Rusev. Maybe it was an Eastern European thing because she was Polish. I don't know.
Brian, have you ever been to WrestleMania?
Twice.
Oh, yes. Okay. So WrestleMania is on my bucket list. And I've also never been to Las Vegas, mostly because I'm a terrible gambler and I'm really not allowed to be in Las Vegas. I should not go there at all.
The stars were aligning for you this year.
I'm telling you, the stars have aligned.
Yeah.
And you have WrestleMania. I'm going.
Oh, nice.
My daughter is 25 years old. She's going to be 26 in just a couple weeks, and she knows more about wrestling than anyone that I know. That's awesome. And her and I are going to go together. So do you have any like advice? Like, aren't there things going on during the week and stuff? And
sure. So when I went to WrestleMania, it wasn't as crazy as it is now. I went to WrestleMania. Geez, which ones were that? I went to the one at the Sky Dome. It was the Sky Dome in Toronto at the time. It's now the Rogers Center. It was The Rock against Hogan, where they had the big stare down and everyone cheered for Hogan and they booed The Rock. I was at that one. And then I went a couple years later to 20, which was at the Garden, it wasn't a great show. I think it was like Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. It was the show where like Brock Lesnar was leaving again, and he fought Goldberg and they booed him out of the building. And so it wasn't a great card at all, but now you go and it's in these massive stadiums, and there's the WWE experience, and all throughout the week there's shows, and there's independent shows and Hall of Fames. We got none of that when I went, so I kind of feel gypped a little bit. I want to go again, but now it's really expensive.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm saving because there's no way I am not missing that. So like how much are tickets? I don't even have any idea, but you know what? I don't care because I'm going. So, I'm really looking forward to it. So when I saw you were like a wrestling fan, I'm like, what? Like, how did I not know this?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I hosted, actually, before I actually did sports in college, I hosted a wrestling show called Off the Ropes, which was Howard Stern show meets drunk frat guys. It was, and most of the time we were not even talking about wrestling, but we did go to a ton of wrestling shows. We had wrestlers on our show, like old retired wrestlers we would find on the internet. Ted DiBiase, the Road Warriors.
I loved Ted DiBiase.
Oh yeah, and we had him, Tatanka. We had on the show. I still have the tapes. I have cassettes of these. So that was really cool. Rob Van Dam wouldn't do an interview with us because he wanted to get paid in weed. So we're at the Burt Flickinger Center. It was ECW November to Remember, like 1998 or whatever it was. And we're like, Rob, can we have like this whole nerdy setup with a microphone and all this. He's like, hey man, yeah, you got to pay us. And we're like, we're college. We don't have any money. Like, what are we paying you with? He's like, you guys got like pot or anything? You got to like, dude. They're like, dude, they search you when you come to an ECW show. Like, you get patted down. No, we don't have drugs on us. You're coming in here. God. So we couldn't interview Rob Van Dam. But yeah, doing wrestling was a blast.
Rob Van Dam was at Exotica in Chicago last year. I'm like, why? I mean,
he's a big pot guy. Huge pot guy. Yeah. Which is cool. I was actually you want a terrible wrestling story?
Yes.
You guys remember when the actor David Arquette won the WCW World Championship?
Yeah.
We were live broadcasting from WCW Thunder in Syracuse because that's where the event was. We went live after the show on the air. Again, you can tell there's nothing going on in this radio station when you can interrupt programming for wrestling talk shows on a Thursday night. But yeah, that was awful. Oh, but yeah, I love wrestling. I could talk wrestling all day long.
That's amazing. What has been your most memorable moment in your fantasy football career? Whether it's a clutch draft, a pick, or a surprising player performance, anything. What was like a memorable moment
sort of
for you?
Fantasy related, but I went to the Super Bowl this year, and I got to bring my wife. So that was really cool. And to go into like the media center and see,
that's
with
so
her
cool.
and kind of walk around. So getting to share that experience with my wife was incredible. So like the coolest football experience, I would say, would be going to the Super Bowl with my wife.
Nice.
Any of these Kings Classic drafts, going to the Expo, kind of just feeling like you're included in that club. And I think that's what so many people strive for. And maybe it's wrong, where you go like, I want to be at the cool kids table. I want to be in a draft with like Mike Clay and with Bob Harris and Jeff Manns and Jeff Radcliffe and all these guys. And then you get there and you're like, they're just a jerk off like me. Like, why is everyone like all crazy, like, but yeah, people go nuts on Twitter trying to like become what I call fantasy famous to build themselves up to a level. And then when you get there, you're like, oh, this is just a job. You're just writing articles and talking into a microphone. It's no different than a guy who's really good at, his job as a, IT programmer or a sales guy, same thing. But
well, and that's kind of the thing with the Expo. Like, no one is off limits. I mean, if they're there, you get to go up and talk to them, and they're just like we are. And I always tell everybody, like, my friends aren't like me. Like, I don't have any friends that play fantasy football, but you guys are all like me. So, the Expo, last year was the first year that I went, and it was literally one of the best times I ever had. Like that weekend was incredible. So this year, Brian, I have been invited to play in the Queen's Classic, and
Nice.
I am,
Congratulations.
yeah. Thank you. I really was sure that Bob Lung like sent me a DM on accident. I was like, "Are you sure Wendy Early is the one that you want?" You know, because maybe he made a mistake. I don't know. And he goes, "You know what? I don't make mistakes, Bob." Lung's like, "I don't make mistakes." So I know that you are planning on you're in the King's Classic, but you're also going to be broadcasting, right?
I am. Yes,
How are
I'll
you going to
be.
do that? So you're telling me you're going to draft and broadcast live?
Well, I only do the snake draft in the King's
Okay.
Classic. My pal Kevin Tompkins takes the auction side, which, by the way, he won for Fighting Chance Fantasy 2 years ago. That's what helped bump us to the upper league that we're in now in the Jim Brown division. But I was thinking, nobody in the King's Classic history has ever drafted while on the air. And I figured maybe we'll do it this year. Why not? Like, the
Yeah.
hell with it. Let's have some fun. So then we could talk about it on the air. So we'll talk about the King's Classic. We'll talk about the Queen's Classic. There's multiple rooms. There's the Blanda division, which I was in for years, which Doug is in, which Drew is in, which we have forever said does not get enough love for whatever reason. That's
Yes.
just the focus is always on the Jim Brown division. Mark my words, folks. If I am broadcasting that draft, the Blanda division is going to get some love.
There
And
you
we'll
go.
shout out our guys in the Queen's
So
Classic,
this
of
is a
course. Will be
question,
the
yeah,
focal point.
Brian. That was a question I was asking Jim last time when we were talking about, and I was asking Bob as well. Like they should be inclusive for both teams because both teams they are really good in what they do. And what I heard is that Sirius XM wants to they know what they want and they know what they need. So what's your answer to that? Like why
When
they're broadcasting just one team and they're
Well, it
not
is
doing
easy.
other?
I do understand the point on a radio production side. It is difficult to say, okay, let's focus on this room, and then we're bringing up this other draft that's going on over here. And people are like, wait a minute, they're talking about Christian McCaffrey went first in this one he went fourth. So maybe it can confuse people a little bit. But also when the King's Classic first started, and I think my first year was like 2018, 2019, whatever it was, and Sirius
Yeah.
was there. And there was a room of the like what they call like the A League, the Jim Brown division, and then the Blanda division, the B League. There was a marked difference between if you looked at that room and then of guys who worked for ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, they were the biggest names. And the guys in the other division, let's be frankly, they weren't. Again, I said me. I'm like, why am I even here? So, but that has changed in the last 5-6 years. And now that there is relegation and people moving around, and just the fact that there's so many really quality fantasy analysts out there, you can put, pound for pound, look at the people in the Blanda, look at the people in the Brown. You could almost say this division could be better,
I
if you
agree.
look at some of these analysts. But that's the beauty of it. That's why, Bob has done such a great job of it. It's
Yeah.
the best of the best, as he always says, mixing it up. And, I'll do my best to shine a light on the Blanda division because I know those guys deserve it. They are just as smart and as talented as anybody else in any
That's
other room
awesome.
drafting and putting stickers on a board.
No,
And
that's
you're going to
awesome.
come
We
over
love
to
to
the
hear
Queen's
it.
Classic and talk to us too, right?
We'll be there too. Trust me. That I know you guys got some love last year. I was drafting. I wasn't on the show, but that's always my move on the drive home. I have a 6-hour ride home, so then I just listen back to the broadcasts. But yeah, they did a really good job last year. I think Kendall
Yeah.
Valenzuela, was she in there? I don't know if she was on
Yeah.
the mic, but she's phenomenal. The work she does for
I love her.
Fantasy Life.
Yeah, she's so nice. But we got to give a little shout out to Linda that won the Queen's Classic last year. I'm telling you, she got this big ass belt and stuff, and I bet you she's
Yeah.
gonna wear that all weekend at the expo. I would. I
would.
personally would if it were mine.
I lost the
For
King's
sure.
Classic 2 years ago on the last drive of the last
Oh.
game of Sunday night football when Pat Fryermuth caught a ball that
That's
just
insane.
stunk me. And so, yeah, I lost then. And then last year, I was in the Brown division again, and I lost in the semi, like just total nonsense. I lose to Dave Richards' team. He has like every scrub in America go off. Like Greg Dortch is catching touchdowns. DJ Chark catches a couple touchdowns. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And the next week, of course, I'm the highest scorer in the league, so I would have won the championship. But that's
woulda, coulda,
fantasy football.
shoulda, coulda,
That's
woulda,
fantasy.
shoulda. Yep.
I tell the great John Sterling Yankees on that. That's baseball, Susan. You know, you just got to roll with it. It doesn't. The game is not over. You're not a champion until literally the trophy's in your hands.
Yep.
Brian, what future trends do you predict for fantasy football?
I hope it's to get rid of kickers and defenses. And I'm a guy that writes a defensive streamers article. But yeah, get rid of the kickers. That's nonsense. I think that's going to go away. And, you know, I think these best ball drafts are just really on the rise. And we think it's big because it's what a lot of people in fantasy talk about. But go talk to your casual friends at the bar. They have no idea what best ball is. Or maybe they've seen an underdog commercial, or, you know, they'll play like one of the drafts. There's so much runway with best ball and with prop betting. I think the in-game props are going to just get bigger and bigger and bigger because that's easy. Anybody can go in the middle of the game like, oh, is Jalen Hurts going to, you know, score a rushing touchdown in the second quarter? Yes or no? Like anybody can do that. You know, you're not like, all right, it's minus 135 and, you know, the Eagles are +4 on the, nobody cares about that. You know, people can easily do like, oh, is he going to go over under 50 rushing yards? You know, so I think that's where the real growth is going to be.
I want to mention the best ball thing because when I was listening, my first people that I ever listened to were people like, you know, Howard Bender and Bob Harris and John Hansen. And I kept hearing best ball. I'm like, what the hell is best ball? I had no clue, you know, and now I wish every league I played in were best ball. I mean, I just love it. And we have Big Draft Energy in the chat. He is a huge friend of the show. Nice. And he has taught me so much. If anybody wants to know about best ball drafting with drafters, you need to go follow Big Draft Energy because that guy knows what he's doing. I've been watching his stuff, and he's got a lot of giveaways that he does, and he's a big supporter of our show. So anybody who's not sure about best ball, that's the guy to go go talk to him.
Nice. Yeah, best ball. Any industry league, by the way, outside of the Kings Classic, it's got to be best ball. Like, please, I don't have time to set 500 lineups.
And that's why with Battle of the Sexes, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I run a charity tournament. Yeah, I run that tournament with my partner. His name is Michael Salwin, and it was kind of his brainchild. And then he brought me in, and I'm telling you, it is the best thing since sliced bread. I'm just like, it's almost like a set and forget. But you know what we're going to do this year, Brian? It's something different. First of all, we've raised over $6,000 already for our, so far. We have over 150, I think it's 156 women and 156 men. So it's equal amounts playing each other. So everybody feels, you know, comfortable. But you know, if you can play next year, Brian, I'm going to be after you. You're going to have to come and play. Does your wife play too?
She does not. She doesn't.
But see,
she's an Eagles fan by marriage. Her father is a Giants fan. Her brothers are Giants and Cowboys fans. So
it's like me, Brian.
It's
but best ball. Yeah, but best ball is the way to kind of get her feet wet, and you know, she doesn't have to think too much, and you know, like you don't have to set lineups, and it's what I'm trying to get Carla to do.
That's what I want my son to get into as well. Hey, you know, this is easy. Just picking players, see what happens. But yeah, as Big Draft Energy point out, 6K, man, good for you guys. That's
amazing.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
And everybody hasn't even donated yet because we raised $5,750 last year, and we had charities that were Play Like a Girl and Zero Prostate Cancer and Living Beyond Breast Cancer, which was suggested to us by our friend Kelly Singh, who had been through her breast cancer. And I asked her, I said, you know, who helped you? I don't want to just do, okay, we're going to give it to Susan G. Komen. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm like, hey, you know, who was good for you? And she's like, this is the group.
That's
So
cool. My
this year,
wife's
like I
breast
said,
cancer survivor, so I'm happy to
well,
see you guys
yeah,
do that.
yes. So hopefully next year you can get her to
Let
play,
me
and
know.
that
Slide in the
I
DM. We'll
will.
get me. We'll
Oh
get her.
yeah,
We'll get the
you
kid.
know now.
We'll get
Hey, this
the
year
whole Drake family will get.
we have a daddy-daughter division this year, and next year we want to maybe try a mom-son division to kind of get the kids to play. And we actually have 2 daddy-daughter divisions that filled. So
Wow.
that's 12 girls that are playing fantasy football with their dads and other dads and other girls. I
That's
mean,
kick ass. Good for
yeah,
you guys.
I'm super excited about that. So.
Yeah.
So, Brian, do you have any secrets that you never shared with anyone before? You
Oh,
wanna
I knew
share?
this question was coming. I'm sorry, Brian. I meant to warn you earlier, so
Fantasy football secrets?
not
Any secrets?
necessarily.
Well,
We're fine with anything.
I'll give you the best secret is never have so like everyone who sees me here, it's like, oh man, he looks very young and spry. But because the camera never pans to the back of your head. So always have your camera positioned discreetly to hide any bald spots. But
What?
that's tip number 1. But fantasy wise, it's just listen to smart people. And I like when I can find out things about play caller tendencies, scheme,
We won't tell.
pace, the real things that impact why people score fantasy points. That's why I was so impressed with the work that my buddy Dwayne put out, is because he really dug into the utilization of players, and that made our show really fun. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I would say the secret is find that the team utilization, the player utilization, the pace, the scheme, the coaching staff, because not all coaches in the NFL are created equal. Not all GMs and teams are built. If you're watching the Giants on Hard Knocks, you know that Joe Shane is a blithering idiot. He should pay HBO to stop airing Hard Knocks because he
Oh
looks
my
worse and worse every day. But some teams are really good and they're built well. So yeah, just if you want to break it down to the simplest terms, draft good players on good teams with good quarterbacks and good
Yeah.
players. Like if you leave the draft and you're like, oh man, all my players are on the Raiders and the Panthers and
You're
the
in
Seahawks,
trouble.
you're like, oh wait, why does my team lose every year? It's, yeah, because your players are on crappy teams.
Well, and I know Brian, that we're getting real close to the 1 hour, but can we talk about the Scott Fish Bowl at all? Do you have a couple extra minutes to stay? Okay.
We're not going anywhere,
Awesome.
guys. I
All right,
walk
thank you.
upstairs and go to bed. We're good.
Okay. So, did you live draft for the Scott Fish Bowl?
I did not.
Have you ever done that?
No, I offered to host one in Syracuse, but maybe down the road we can. Again, Syracuse isn't the biggest place, but there's some fantasy people around here.
Yeah, I'm sure that you could fill that. Well, are you done?
Yeah, I've heard they're a blast.
Come to Boston, though. Are you coming to Boston? You should have come to Boston. We're having Boston this weekend.
Are you really? I just
Well, yeah, and that's where Doug's gonna be.
I do my little draft with just the people in my league, and my problem is we're so busy going places. Like I get away that weekend to go to the expo, and then I've got work trips I have to go to, and the kids are my daughter's a cheerleader. We're going all over the place. So to find another weekend to say, oh yeah, now I'm going to go to Boston to drink with my fantasy friends again. My wife's like, wait a minute, aren't you going to Ohio? Did it get moved to Boston?
To do the same thing? Yeah, to do the same thing in a couple weeks.
So I just drafted online. I made a couple of picks today, actually.
What round are you in? Do you remember?
Let me pull it up. I think 14 and 15. It's
I
dragging
think we're
on.
in 17. Yeah.
Your wife should come with you to the expo.
She wanted to come to the expo this year. She goes, I'm coming. The kids are coming. And I'm like, okay, bring it on. Let's do it.
Why
and then
not?
my daughter's cheerleading has some kind of thing that weekend.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, oh, well, sorry, see you. I'll be on the road drinking with buddies.
Yeah, bye.
You're so sad about it, right?
Yeah, no, it'd be cool. I wouldn't mind having them come out at all and
Yeah.
meeting everybody. But yeah, my
Well,
last
I
two picks,
definitely. Oh,
I'm
sorry.
leaning
Go ahead.
into this Scott
Yes.
Fishbowl returner thing
I
because you
know
get
they haven't. Okay, who are you targeting for that?
well, I already picked Cordarrelle Patterson and I took Greg Dortch.
Okay.
Because not I think Greg Dortch will actually play a meaningful role in the slot for Arizona, but also if he returns kicks, and Cordarrelle Patterson is absolutely going to return kicks for Pittsburgh, and he's got King of the Donkeys, the coaching over there from Atlanta. I even forget his name now. I tried to block it out of my mind. The stupid coach from Patterson. What round
Well,
did I
you
get Patterson?
did. You forgot temporarily.
Yeah, I took Patterson at 15-12. The last pick of the 15th round, I took Patterson. So he was still there, and I went tight end heavy.
Did you?
Trying to get a bunch of tight ends and running quarterbacks. I'm trying to devalue the wide receiver because I think that's what Scott's mission is.
No, don't say that because I'm trying to get some wide receivers there.
Yeah, my wide receiver group is not great.
I thought he was devaluing the running backs. What am I missing? Something? I need info.
It's guys who are going to get carries, points for first down. I think is it point per carry?
I think so.
There's a point.
And he kind of devalue the quarterbacks too, right?
Unless they run. That's why my quarterbacks are Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels.
Okay, well that's
those guys.
Pretty good picks.
You want to hear the squad? So
yes,
I better pray that these wide receivers come through. Let's see. Devontae Smith, who I think will have a big year for the Eagles. Hollywood Brown, Christian Watson, who can never stay healthy, Greg Dortch, and Ricky Pearsall, hoping that Ayuk gets traded. I made that.
Well, I think he's going to. He wants to be.
My thought process is you got to draft for upside in the Scott Fish Bowl. You can't draft the same team that everybody in your group chat is like, I want this guy. These are, the guys that I think are going to, you're never going to win that way. You've got to be different. That's why, I was taking shots on Marshawn Lloyd and Jonathan Brooks. And I took Mostert again and Zeke Elliott and, a bunch of bum running backs. But if they hit, we got a chance.
So James would like to know, what are your thoughts for kick returners Pierce and Justice Hill?
Yeah, it's really so early to tell. You don't know who's going to be returning kicks for these teams. I assume Cordarrelle Patterson. That's the reason Arthur Smith brought him from Atlanta to Pittsburgh, is to return some kicks. And Dortch is on record saying, he'd like to return kicks in this new system that the NFL is doing. So, I mean, I don't like that the NFL changed it. And I think this new scoring is going to be so wacky for Scott Fish Bowl. The waiver wire the first few weeks is going to be bananas, with people just spending tons of money to get a kick returner. And then, you need a quarterback. You don't have any money because you just picked up Kenny Gainwell for $85. So
I can tell you, I will never spend $85 on him. I'm just telling you.
My God.
He'll return a kickoff the opening week for a touchdown. And then everybody in Scott Fish Bowl, we've got to have this 58th string running back from Toledo that's a rookie. And it's don't waste your time.
Well, I see
that people putting a lot of money on the beginning, and it's insane. It's insane.
James has a great point. He talked about Isaiah Rodgers for the Eagles, who actually is a defensive player. So he won't even be listed unless these leagues change and put kick returner on there, because he's a corner. So you're never going to find him to be able to pick him. So astute observation there, James.
Well, and then Buy and Sell You, who is my friend Sam, he said that he went bully tight end. I was at the Chicago Live, and we had, not in my division, but we had 6 divisions drafting there. It was so great. We had so much fun. I had a great time. But somebody went, the first 5 picks were all tight ends.
Wow. Yeah.
I was like,
I think they're onto something with that scoring. And I took Dalton Kincaid in the 3rd, Love Dalton Kincaid. Then I took my guy Turd Ferguson for the Cowboys, who I think will have a top 12 year. And then if you listen to our show on Sirius XM, we talk Tyler Conklin nearly every single day for the New York Football Jets. Tyler Conklin with Aaron Rodgers healthy is going to be a top 12 tight end. It's going to happen. You get him for nothing. I did a stat where there's like 5 tight ends who have at least 50 targets the last 3 years. And it's like Kittle, Kelsey, all these, big time guys. And the one name on the list is Tyler freaking Conklin. So yeah,
people are running away
out there
from
in your
Kelsey.
leagues, guys. Even in your redraft, right? Tyler Conklin is going to be something in fantasy football this year.
I mean, even in like a home league, you would draft him and just kind of stash him, huh?
Well, you got to think. Let's look at that team. There's no Devontae Adams yet. And we know that, look, we're actually talking fantasy football for the first time here.
I know.
Hour and 5 minutes into the show.
We snuck it in.
We know Garrett Wilson is going to be the alpha in that offense. Probably the second target could be Breece Hall. And then Mike Williams, who knows if he's even healthy, coming off the knee injury. You've got a rookie. I don't really trust that very much. But then we've got old, reliable Tyler Conklin. We've seen Rodgers make a ton of scrubs into fantasy viable tight ends over his career. And Conklin's not really even a scrub. He was on a terrible team last year that couldn't get anybody the football. So I love Conklin as a sleeper late, and we've talked about him forever. I think Ferguson too. I don't know why he goes so late in drafts. He's going to be the second option in the Dallas pass game that's going to throw the ball maybe more than anybody in the NFL this year.
Well, I do want to give a shout out to Tootsie Pop because she loves Raheem Mostert, and so do I.
Hey,
he just seems like a nice guy more too.
Let's go.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he killed it.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Raheem Mostert's going to have a Raheem Mostert year. He's going to get hurt week 1, and then we'll never hear from him until.
You know what? I thought we were going to be friends, Brian. I see how this operates. Well, hey, you know what? Thank you to all the viewers in the chat. We missed you guys so much. Thank you for coming back and spending this over hour. And thank you for that, Brian, for giving us some of your time. I know your family is waiting for you. So can you kind of remind people, let them know where to find you?
Sure. So I'm on Twitter. I hate calling it X. It's so dumb.
I'm never going to do that.
At Drake Fantasy, real original name there. I host Sirius XM Fantasy Football Morning. I'm a Tuesday, Thursday guy. Like, I'm the cool college class that you got to wake up for after you went out drinking. Just Tuesday, Thursday. You just got to find me twice. I do the Fantasy Points podcast every Monday that comes out, me and John Hansen. And I also do a little writing at Sports Kita. I'm very behind on articles for them. And my weekly defensive streamers article at fantasypoints.com. So if you ever need me, just look up Fantasy Points, the YouTube, the podcast, the site. You'll find me somewhere. A lot of talented guys there, and then somehow me. I snuck it.
Oh, stop. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thanks, ladies. Great job.
Yeah. Thank you to the Sports Affiliation for providing this platform for us to come and hang out with our friends, all of our friends in the chat. Thank you, JC, for running the show behind the curtain like the Wizard of Oz. You're like the Wizard of Oz back there, JC. Thank you. So next week, next Wednesday, we will have, and she's here in the chat, Rachel, also known as Tootsie Pop 6. She is going to be here to share stories with us.
I think I went to dinner with her last year at the Expo.
You did, because I saw pictures. So that is so awesome. So please don't miss it. You guys come back and see us, and we will see you next week. Everyone stay happy and healthy.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.